So, this might not be a long subject, but the subject that I'm going to talk about today is something that I had listened to earlier on today, and it was probably an old subject, but you know, it was a subject I thought might be, might be intriguing, might be interesting to talk about, and that is the women's right to vote. So, on the panel that I was listening to, I was listening to it, and they were talking about that when you were married, that when you go vote, that your spouse should vote the same thing you do, which I found interesting, because mine doesn't, if she even votes at all. I found that interesting because, and I understand it, because when you marry your husband, you should be on one accord, and and the two of you should believe in the same things for the most part. So voting being a major thing that we do as individuals, their premise and their opinion was that the spouse should vote the same way the husband does, because the husband, not only being the head of the household, is the position that he's in, working and doing all these things, is what they were saying, that the spouse should fall right in line with the husband when it comes to voting, and that the biggest mistake that the country made was to allow women to vote. So that's our subject today. Now, I'm not saying it's a controversial subject, but some people may not like it. I'm not saying I agree with it. We're going to talk about it. So, was allowing women to vote a mistake? Well, if we look at modern times today, if all women voted, we probably wouldn't have President Trump. We'd probably have President Harris, which would have been a nightmare and a disaster. We know that women, as we've discussed, are much more emotional than men are. Men are much more logical for the most part. And so I guess the premise behind it is that because women are more emotional and less logical, that when they vote, they don't vote logically, they vote emotionally. Okay? I guess, if you're using that premise. Okay, that's fine. And that because men vote more logically, we're just using that kind of as a baseline, then the world would be in a better place. Because according to them, men built the world, which they did. And that because the man is the head of the household and is the provider, that the spouse should fall in line and understand that there are roles. Men have roles, women have roles, and the man's role is to provide, to protect, and to be the leader of the family. That's our role. And I agree with that role. I agree. And when the Bible talks about being, submitting to your husband, it's not talking about being subservient or anything like that. It's just submitting to your husband's leadership. Meaning it doesn't mean you don't have an opinion. It just means in the end that man is going to make the decision because he's the leader. He's the head. shouldn't be allowed to vote, but because they are allowed to vote, they should vote the same way their husband does. Because that husband is that leader, provider, and protector. And that there is no reason why a spouse should vote differently than her husband. Okay, they make a good argument. Whether you believe in that or not, that's obviously up to you. But what they're saying is that if you married the man, and that man is the leader, provider, protector of your household, because a wife submits herself to her husband, because after you leave your parents, you fall under your husband. So now you are now your husband's responsibility. That's biblical. Once you leave your parents, then you cleave to your husband. And now it's your husband's responsibility to take care of you, provide for you, protect you, and lead you. That's a husband's job. And so what they're saying is that women shouldn't be allowed to vote, not only because of that, but also because they can't be drafted. They don't have to register for selective service. Whereas a man has to, before he's 18, has to register for selective service. Unless you join the military prior to 18, like I did. I joined at 17, so obviously I didn't have to register for selective service. I was already in the military. Okay? But my boys had to register for selective service. All three of them. But my wife didn't, even though she joined the military. They went so far as to say that women shouldn't be in the military at all. I'm not going to go that far, because women can play a role in the military. Do I think they should be in combat roles? No, I still don't think they should be in combat roles. But they done open Pandora's box now. I don't think women should be in special forces. I don't think women should be in the infantry. I don't think women should be in the armor. I don't think women should be in submarines. I don't think they should be anywhere in any combat role, or especially in submarines, where you're in a confined space underwater for months. It's not conducive to proper military order, in my opinion. But I do think women can have productive careers in the military. I know many women in the military who are awesome officers, awesome NCOs, and they really truly are great soldiers, sailors, and airmen. I just don't think they should be in combat roles. And one of the gentlemen was like, the reason is because if they were to become a prisoner of war, it's a compromising situation for that country, because we're gonna do more to try to get that woman from being a prisoner than we would for a man, because the woman is the weaker vessel. So we're going to do more, like President Biden did to get Griner, I think, was it Brittany Griner, I think her name is, the basketball player that was stuck in Russia. I think it was Russia. And you end up doing more than you should have. You traded a actual criminal, an arms dealer, Brittany Griner, an arms dealer, for a WNBA basketball player. And as soon as she got home, then you want to down the United States. Really? You traded a convicted arms dealer for a WNBA player? But that's what happens, because she's a woman. You do more, and you feel more obligated to do more and do things you shouldn't do because she's a woman. I agree with that. I agree with that statement. And again, I still am of the opinion that women should not be in combat roles. Period. As was stated, men are stronger. Men are basically superior in most every category when it comes to physicality, when it comes to dealing with situations and all these other things. It's not that women aren't smart. It's not that women can't multitask, and that's not what we're talking about. We're talking physical roles. Combat roles are physical. Special forces is physical. Rangers, physical. SEALs, physical. Infantry, physical. You got to be physically able to do these jobs. Yes, of course you have to be smart. And yes, going through any Special Forces course, SEAL course, Delta course, whatever it is, you got to have a good head on your shoulders. And in fact, they'll tell you most of it is a mind thing. Yes, you have to be physically fit, of course. But it's all up here in your mind. You got to want it. You got to be able to endure things. Okay? Yes, of course you have to be physical. And so what has happened is that when they allow women into combat or into combat roles or into frontline roles, they had to lower the standard. And that's not right. You don't lower the standard. The standard is the standard. And if you decide that you want to allow women in these roles, you don't lower the standard for women. They got to come up. But they didn't do that. They lowered the standard. And so this was their thinking behind not allowing that women shouldn't be allowed to vote, because one, they're not included in the draft. They don't have to join selective service. And if women are still allowed to vote, then they should vote the same way their husbands do, because of the role of the husband and the role of the wife. It's a valid argument. I'm of the opinion, and I've said this in past vlogs, that I think if women are going to join the military, they need to join selective service and be able to be drafted. If you're going to do it, go all the way. You know, women are whining and crying. They want to be equals. They want to do all this other stuff. Okay, that's fine. Now you can be drafted just like everybody else. Just like the men, you can be drafted at 18. You might not be drafted into combat roles, but you could be drafted. And you got to sign up for selective service. Because there are a lot of countries where the women have to join the military, just like the men do. Israel being one of them. And in Israel, they carry guns and everything else just like everybody else does. Look, you know, in Israel, you need all the help you can get. So, of course, everybody's going to be conscripted. And everybody has mandatory service. So if we're going to allow women to do these things, then they need to be drafted. So their opinion was, for them to truly have the right to vote, they need to be drafted and have to sign up for a selective service just like the men. If you want equality, then treat them the same. Treat them the same. And I agree with that. They should be drafted and they should sign up for the selective service just like everybody else. They should be treated just like everybody else. Everybody else. And so, again, but whether they should be allowed to vote or not, you know, that's another argument. You know, that's a slightly different argument. Well, I mean, it's not necessarily a different argument, but it's a much more nuanced topic, because every citizen of the United States should be able to vote. But I understand their point in that. I understand their point. I don't know if I necessarily agree with the point, but I understand the point. And I understand the point they were trying to make. You know, they went on to say, you know, a man is willing to you know, die for his country, but a woman's not. But yet they're allowed to vote for the commander-in-chief. But yet they don't have to get drafted and they don't have to worry about selective service. So I understand their point, and they make a valid argument. So I guess the next question is not whether, it's not so much that should women be able to vote, but because because they can vote, do we need to treat them the same as we treat men? So making their vote more valid. That would be the next question. So this whole video is just looking at that argument on whether women should be able to vote. We know, obviously, Constitution, says they can vote. That's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about that they weren't given the right to vote. The question is should they be able to vote? Because they don't have to sacrifice anything for that vote, whereas men do. They make a valid argument. It's a valid argument. It's a valid argument. And so I'd be interested to see what y'all have to say about it. Again, I'm not necessarily for or against it. I'm just pointing out the topic that I had heard today, and I wanted to discuss it on here about what y'all think about it. I think it's a valid argument, whether I agree with it or not. I think it's a valid argument. They make some good points. And I think if women want to be treated equally, which all these modern women do, traditional women don't, but these modern women do, then we should draft them. They should be part of the draft, and they should have to sign up for selective service, which they do in other countries. Israel being the main example of it. Men and women both have to serve. And of course this topic spills into other topics that I've done videos on. Would I vote for a woman president? No. Does that mean she's not necessarily qualified? No, that's not what that means necessarily. I wouldn't vote for a woman president because women are too emotional, and so they're not going to do so. And so the tendency for them to make emotional and irrational decisions is going to happen, no matter how smart you are. And if the man is the head, and God has ordained man to be the head, then how are we going to have a woman president? Who's in charge? Again, just my opinion. Just like I'm not for women pastors. God didn't make woman the head, he made man the head. So how are we having women pastors? You're out of order. And I understand these women are like, well, there are no men, and this, that, and the other. Well, that's not your decision to make. Well, women can do, okay. We're not saying women aren't intelligent and can't do this, that, and the other, but that's not their role. This is what people get all messed up about. Men and women have roles, and traditional men and women understand this. And I would even argue more conservative people understand this. Most of the liberal folk don't agree with this. They just do whatever you want. Most, not all, most. So I would argue that most of the conservative people understand that women and men have roles, regardless of race, gender, or whatever. But even the church doesn't understand this. The modern church doesn't understand this. They think you're being sexist. They think you're being a chauvinist. No. The Bible says the man is the head. That God has made man the head. God speaks through the man as the head, who then speaks to his spouse and then through their children. That's the chain of command. But unfortunately, we don't have a lot of men that serve and choose not to be the leader in their house and serve in that role. So that's why everything gets messed up and turned upside down. not so dogmatic about women preachers. But even the Bible specifies the duties of a bishop, husband of one wife. Well, you can't be a husband of one wife if you're a woman, because the Bible don't believe in homosexuality. It's a sin. It's an abomination. So I don't get into women bishops, nor do I get into women pastors. I don't support it. I know they're out there. I was just at a church Sunday, and the pastor is my brother, and whom I consider a friend, and has wonderful people in his church. But his wife is a pastor. He has made her. He's the senior pastor. She's the executive pastor. I don't agree with that, but I'm not going to disrespect him or his wife in their church or anything like that. I just will not follow them. I will not follow her, I should say, in her capacity, because I don't believe in women pastors. I don't. And again, it has nothing to do with intelligence. Doesn't have anything to do with ability. It has everything to do with the fact that we have roles, and God has made man in the leader role. It's just that simple. This ain't got the Bible. That has nothing to do with women's empowerment, feminism, DEI. Has nothing to do with any of that stuff. And that's what's wrong with our society now, is that we've succumbed to all this feminism ideology, and it's messed us up. It's messed the church up. It's messed everybody 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 up so much so that first ladies, elect ladies, whichever you call, are given more honor than your elders are. How is that possible when elect ladies not even in the Bible? When you're having your pastor's anniversary, you're not honoring the first lady or elect lady, you're honoring your pastor. First lady and elect lady is something that we made up to mirror what the government does. Just like a church hierarchy, a lot of it is based on the government, based on worldly organization. So back to, should women be able to vote? Should they be able to vote? We know that the amendment was passed for them to give them the ability to vote, but should they? That's my question to y'all. Should they? In these modern times, should women be able to vote when they're not sacrificing anything for the ability to vote? Whereas men are sacrificing. We're having to sign up for the draft. We're having to sign up for selective service. We're the ones going to combat. We're the ones that are going to have to give up our lives for the country. Should women be able to vote when they don't have to do that? Or should we make women be able to have to be part of the draft, sign up for selective service, and all these other things? That's my question. That's my question. And that's the question that's out there on the table. I'm not sure what my answer is yet. I have to think about it. But it's a pretty persuasive argument. And again, this is not going to be popular to the women, unless you're a traditional woman. This is not going to be popular at all. And it might not even be popular to some men, especially liberals. But this is just a question I'm posing. And I found the topic interesting, so I decided I wanted to talk about it on here. And, you know, I think that, you know, that it's something that needs to be thought about. If we're going to continue to allow women to vote per the Constitution, then I think there should be more, I think the question should be asked, should we ask women to do more in society? If they want to be equal like men, then they should be doing the same things as men, and should be able to, and they should sacrifice the same. If you want to be equal, of course. But see, when you really talk to women, they only want to be equal to a point. They don't want nothing to do with the draft or selective service or combat or anything like that. No, they don't want none of that. Well, no, you're not. You can't have it both ways. Either you want to be equal or you don't. And so all these topics, you know, coalesce together. And even though we're talking about should women vote, should women, have the ability to vote, the argument being made by who I watched earlier today, they shouldn't be, because they don't make any sacrifices to the society. And childbearing is not a sacrifice. Let me get that out the way now. Childbearing is not a sacrifice. That's something only you as a woman can do, which is bear children. That's not a sacrifice. And some would argue that's your duty as a woman, is to procreate the species. That's what you were created to do. Now, I would agree with that. That is a woman's role, to procreate. Now, a man is who creates the baby. The woman is who gives birth to the baby. It's the man's sperm that goes into the egg. It's not the woman that creates a child. Women don't create children. Men do. The women are who give birth to the child. Their role is to help procreate the species. Men have the easy part. I will admit, childbearing is not easy. Being that my wife has given me 3 sons, it is not easy. But it is the role of women to procreate the species. Meaning giving birth. I probably need to rephrase that. Men and women both have a part in procreation. Man's part is creating life. Woman's part is giving birth to life. If that makes sense. If I'm saying that the right way. Okay? The sperm is what creates the life when it hits the egg. And when it fertilizes the egg. The women have the egg. The sperm fertilizes the egg, and that's what creates life. Okay? That's what creates life. So obviously both men and women have a role to play in procreation. Man's is creating it, women's is giving birth to it. The woman's body is made to carry that baby and give birth to that baby, not a man's. Okay? So I would argue that the woman's part in procreation is a lot more difficult than the man's. Obviously, we have the easy part. But it's just as vital. You know, what's the old adage? It takes 2 to tango. So the subject of this vlog, that should women be able to vote, morphs into all kinds of stuff. Into, what are women's roles in society, or what should women's roles be in society, considering that the modern woman has messed up all the traditional roles, and modern men too, because men aren't taking their rightful places in society and in leadership. The women are filling the gap. They're not supposed to. And the argument that's made is that women truly want somebody to lead them. And I believe that. And if women were going to be really honest, they want a man to lead them, because any common sense woman understands their role. They don't want to have to do all the things that men do. And a lot of these traditional women don't want to work. They just want to stay home and raise kids. And that's wonderful. And I understand now in modern times that's not necessarily conducive, depending on the couple and where you're at financially. I know it wasn't conducive for us, because when we got married, we were young junior enlisted people in the Army. You know, me and my wife both E4 specialists getting married. We didn't have a whole lot of money. And they didn't have on-post housing for us, so we had to go get an apartment. We didn't have a whole lot of money. So we both had to work. And my firstborn son was born after I got out of active duty. So she was pregnant through basically almost my last year of active duty. And then the other two were born prior to me going back in. But we needed both incomes. And even if I made enough money to where my wife didn't have to work, my wife likes to work. She likes to be busy. So she likes to work. She likes to work. And of course that benefits the family. She likes to work. She doesn't like sitting around. And yes, my wife was still able to raise kids. We were able to do all the things that kids do growing up. My boys all had extracurricular activities growing up. They were able to go to, dances and prom. They would do all the things that kids do. They've been through the daycare experience, all that stuff. We didn't like the daycare experience, but we had to do it. Because we both had to work. We had to work. And so, but that was just us. But we were still able to she was able to do all the things that she needed to do. I was able to do all the things I was able to do. And all that. And we've been married, we'll be 29 years here in a few months. We share roles, we do different things, and when I mean share roles, I don't have a problem doing the wash, I don't have a problem cleaning the house, I don't have a problem with that, again, because we both work. So my wife does the cooking. We both clean. We both do wash, though I do the majority of it. I do the yard work, of course. I take out the trash. Those things. Even though my my wife pays the bills, we come together and she lets me know everything that she's doing, and we agree on budget. We do all that. We do all those things. She lets me know what's going on. So I am not, she's still allowing me to be the leader, and I am allowing her to handle the finances because, I'm just going to be perfectly honest, she's much smarter than I am. Much better at math than me. I was never a good student. Definitely wasn't good at math. And so my wife takes care of those things. But we do come together. We have budget meetings. We come together. We go over the budget, how much we're saving, how much we're putting into this, how much we're putting into that, and those things. Decisions are made. We come together, and she gets my say so on it. So that's how we do things. And however you do things, if you as being the man do everything, that's cool, that's great, do your thing. But I'm not full bore, super red pill per se, but I understand in my marriage, again, compromise is one of the most major things in a marriage. We understand our roles, but we also know that sometimes one or the other may do one role better than the other. We understand our strengths and weaknesses. And I'm not saying budgeting is difficult, nor am I saying that I can't do it. But she is so much faster, so much more efficient than I am. And because she knows how to put all that stuff on spreadsheets. Because she works in IT, she knows how to do all that stuff. She's so good at it. She's so smart. And so why wouldn't I allow her to do that? Because that's her strength. That's one of her strengths, of many. But that's one of her strengths. She's extremely smart. I didn't marry a dumb woman. I married a very intelligent woman. Much smarter than me. And so that's how we do ours. But she understands her role. She understands her biblical role. She understands all that. So, it's all good. But again, what y'all think? What y'all think about it? What y'all think about whether women should really be able to vote or not? Again, my opinion, I watched something earlier and I thought I'd come on here and talk about it and see what y'all thought about it. So hey, leave a comment. As always, be respectful. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. If you like what you hear, share it with somebody. Tell somebody about it. Again, I don't have a problem with you disagreeing with me. Just be respectful about it. That's all I ask. And really, that's all I demand, is being respectful. Because everybody has different life experiences and different opinions, and everybody grew up differently. So you have a different way of looking at things, and that's okay. And that's what makes the world interesting, is that we have different opinions and life experiences and all these things. Life would be boring if we all thought the same. So yeah, let somebody know about it, share about it. Again, I appreciate each and every one that likes my videos, comments on my videos, views my videos, especially a couple of years ago, that Anton Daniels video I posted got 801 views. That's amazing. That is absolutely amazing. I want to thank each and every one of you that did it. And I'm gonna start highlighting more people. He's a popular person to watch, so I just wanted to kind of give my opinion on him, and that was, y'all liked that video, which surprised the mess out of me. I would prefer more substantive type of things, but hey, and they'll be there, but I guess I need to start talking about those type of things more, because it seems to me that's what y'all like to enjoy and watch. So that's what I gotta start doing. Excuse me. So yep, so that's what we'll start doing. And again, I just appreciate everyone. Appreciate my subscribers. I don't have a whole lot, but don't despise small beginnings. So hey, I appreciate all 31 of my viewers. And again, if there are some topics that y'all want me to talk about, leave them in the comments, and we will talk to y'all next time. God bless you.